My name is Hermann Djoumessi, social media, blockchain, and big data consultant. This podcast is a bite-sized summary of a potential conversation with Satoshi Nakamoto's seminal white paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. The goal of this podcast is to establish the many sources and resources necessary to create, deploy, and optimize blockchain technology ecosystem in order to establish a Bitcoin or blockchain standard for businesses and organizations in the 21st century.
Let's salute the demise of Internet Explorer and have maybe a meme token made out of it. Today we will have a short look at the white paper with a look back at the timestamp server as per the Satoshi's white paper. As you know full well, the white paper does not mention the blockchain words at all throughout the document, but mention mostly the chain of digital signature that are time-stamped. Hence, this is why we do this flashback. Here it is. A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payment to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a single financial institution. Digital signature provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. We propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. The network timestamps transactions by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work, forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. The longest chain not only serves as proof of the sequence of events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. As long as the majority of CPU power is controlled by nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they'll generate the longest chain and outpace attackers. The network itself requires minimal structure. Messages are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they were gone. Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Satoshi Nakamoto, Satoshi at gmx.com, www.bitcoin.org. Now, those were the forewords of the Satoshi white paper as per the unique Satoshi white paper. That was, of course, the abstract, of course. Now, let's jump forward to point number 3, okay, which is timestamp server. The solution we propose begins with a timestamp server. A timestamp server works by taking a hash block of items to be timestamps and widely publishing the hash, such as in a newspaper or a Usenet post. The timestamps proves that the data must have existed at the time, obviously, in order to get into the hash. Each timestamp includes the previous timestamp in its hash, forming a chain with each additional timestamp reinforcing the one before it. So that's why there is a graph, of course, that is supplied with this whole idea of the timestamp. And you basically have a line, okay, a horizontal line, all right, at the top with your hash. Okay, you have hash number 1 and hash number 2, all right? So, of course, hash number 1 that you see is made of, obviously, information coming from hash 0, number 0, the hash before it, okay? Then, of course, you have, obviously, a transaction that happened, right? Which has been constituted into a block, right? Because the transaction builds a block, right? So that's hence the blockchain, right? So you build a block of data, a block of information with different items inside that block. And of course, that information inside the new block, you know, block number 1, right? Block number 1, hash number 1, right? Block number 1, information from block number 1 goes into the hash number 1, which is made of block number 1, plus information from the previous hash, so hash number 0. Okay? And of course, the hash number 0 is made of information from block number 0, obviously. Right? So you have hash number 0, hash number 1, hash number 2, block number 0, block number 1, block number 2 underneath. Right? That's the core idea. Okay? Which was explained in the previous point, which says, it reads a little bit like this: to accomplish this without a trust party, okay, so to accomplish a transaction without a trusted party, right, transaction must be publicly announced, right, so obviously, right, transaction needs to be publicly announced inside the system, and we need a system for participants to agree on a single history of the order in which they were received, obviously, right? We all need to agree that that guy was the first to do the transaction, that other person was the second, that other person that was the third transaction, and each of those transactions have obviously a different block attached to it, right? Block of information obviously attached to it. So, which is why we need to agree, but all the participants to the network, all the nodes, if you want, really the computers, right? The computers nodes, we all have to agree on the same history of the order in which they were received. So the payee needs proof that at the time of each transaction, the majority of nodes agreed it was the first received, okay? So that's really what we needed, why we needed to have that timestamp served, okay? Because it enables us to decide on the order of transaction, okay? That's extremely important because this is why the Bitcoin network is a trustless system, and that, of course, nobody can censor its content as well, all right? So it's trustless and censorship resistance, all right, thanks to the ability to be able to timestamp transaction, of course, okay? So that's the idea there, the core idea behind the technology. This is why it becomes a unique approach to transaction making online without a trusted third party. I hope I try to be as clear as possible and really help you break down in small micro-learning type of, if you want, information, what we're trying to say. Because I think that in order for most of us to understand how that technology works, we need somebody like me or somebody, we need people who are willing to really break down information to its back to a bite-sized level, right? And which is why we keep breaking it down in different episodes, and we're going to have different seasons, and we're always going to look, of course, at how it does impact us in real life too, by the way, okay? So that's the end of this point. That's it for today. Now we're going to go into the Satoshi Chronicles part, where we delve a little bit more into internet consciousness via the search engine and answer engines. Search engine, like, Google, your DuckDuckGo, whatever, right? And answer engines to understand where the crypto sentiment on social media lies, really, right? That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to see if we can really look at the overall sentiment within the crypto space, all right? Okay, first, of course, let's have a look at what is a hash function. A hash is a function that converts if you want, one value to another. Hashing data is a common practice in computer science and is used for several different purposes. Examples include cryptography, compression, of course, generation, and data indexing, of course, right? We want to index data. Hashing is a natural fit for cryptography because it kind of masks the original data with another value, all right? And a hash function can be used, if you want, to generate a value that can only be decoded by looking up the value from a hash table, right? A bit like a VLOOKUP for those of you who dabble a little bit into Excel formulas and functions. The table may be an array or a database or other data structure, and a good cryptographic hash function is non-invertible, right? It's non-reversible, right? Meaning it cannot be reversed engineered, all right? So you can't get back to the original number, right? To the original data. That's really why it's interesting, all right? And of course, you can have different types of compression, such as lossy image compression and media compression may incorporate hash functions also to reduce file size, for example, all right? So it's used in many aspects of computer science, right? So this is a blog post by Global Sign on Global Site by GMO, and it was posted on February the 10th, 2017 by June Hossoy. Shout out to June. Shout out to Dogecoin people. Okay, I wanted to say that big up to you. All powers to you. We're all into the meme coin movement, and we all love that. Fantastic. Yeah, shout out to all of you guys out there. All right. When the date and time of an event is recorded, we say that it is timestamped. We say June, right? Date and time of an event is recorded. We say it is timestamped, right? A digital camera will record the time and date of a photo being taken. A computer will record the time and date of a document being saved and edited, like this podcast, by the way. And a social media post may have dates and time recorded, right? These are all examples of timestamps. All right, so timestamps are important for keeping records of when information is being exchanged or created or even deleted online. Okay, and in many cases, these records are simply useful for us to know about. So the documents also mention the use of Usenet systems. This is a shout out for the OG of the Usenet system, which is kind of the I would say original worldwide distributed discussion system available on computers. Right, so we're talking late 20th century, 1979, 1980, right? That sort of dates, that sort of moment, that sort of in time and space and history. And so Usenet is a worldwide distributed discussion system available on computers. It was developed from the general purpose Unix to Unix copy dial-up network architecture, right? So Tom Truscott, of course, and Jim Ellis conceived the idea in 1979, and it was established in 1980. User read and post message to one or more categories known as newsgroup. All right, so it's the granddaddy of WhatsApp, right? The granddaddy. And Usenet resembles a bulletin board system in many respects and is the precursor to internet forums that became widely used. Right? Discussions are threaded as with web forum, and the BSS thou posts are stored on the server sequentially. Okay, you got it. You can get more information, of course, on usenet.io or usenet.org, right? This is usenet.io, by the way, right? And Usenet is collections of newsgroup where the users can post messages, and these posted messages are distributed via Usenet server. Each server holds these posted messages for a certain period of time. This period of time is also known as retention time. Usenet can be compared with an internet forum, but the main difference is that the messages are not stored in one server and are only available for a certain amount of time. So they have ephemeral quality about them, all right? That's for Usenet and the OGs of the Usenet persuasion. Thank you. Now, let's go into this section of the Satoshi Chronicle, which we're gonna call today, Dude, It's Been Debunked. Right? It's been debunked, and one of those big debunks about the Bitcoin ecosystem or the Bitcoin space, if you want, it's of course the famous situation called the Bitcoin mining energy comparison, right? Global banking industry versus the global Bitcoin network, right? And that's it's a post from the Bitcoin Exchange Guide.com, right? That was posted on June 8th, 2018, right? 3 years ago, right? So the thing has been debunked 3 years ago, and you still have people on the internet using that analogy, trying to smash down the Bitcoin network. Sometimes some of them are billionaires and work for a very famous electric car company, right? Even if we do like some of what they do in fairness, especially when they go to space. That's really amazing, actually. All right, so you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, I did mention the dude at the beginning of the podcast, but here it is. Let's listen to this post from the Bitcoin Exchange Guide news team. Right, the next time someone complains about electricity consumption on the Bitcoin global network, mention that banking, gold mining, gold recycling, and paper currency all use significantly more energy. Canadian crypto analyst AVB Armin van Bitcoin, I like the name. Shout out to Armin van Bitcoin. The man is on a mission. Tweeted a comparison of the annual economic cost of different industries, including Bitcoin mining, gold mining, and the global banking system. And guess what we get? What we have? Annual economic cost, banking, right? Okay, I gotta make sure I read this, right? Banking has annual economic cost of $1,870 billion. Gold mining is $105 billion. Banking and its electricity system, it's $63.8 billion. All right. Gold recycling is $40 billion. Paper currency is $28 billion. All right. Bitcoin, wait for it. Do a wild guess, because I'm going to give you the number right now. But do a wild guess, you back at home. Think about how expensive is Bitcoin as far as its annual economic cost. $0.79 billion in energy costs per year. So this is where we are. $0.79 billion. Okay. Gold mining being at $105 billion. Banking, electricity being at $63.8 billion. Gold recycling being at $40 billion. Paper currency being at $28 billion. Think about it, paper currency, right? You have to chop the wood in some forest in Africa, Asia, all right? Bring the wood to wherever the print manufacturer is, right? You have to go to a special printing manufacturer, which one is using massive, huge amount of energy, right? You know those old school 20th century factories, how much electricity and energy they need to operate, okay? Then, of course, once you've printed the paper, what do you need to do? You need to slice it, okay? Wrap it, blast it, right? And ship it to the different physical banks, all right? Which, by the way, have employees and which, by the way, still use paper also, okay? And need to hit buildings that the global Bitcoin network, unless you are mentioning the data centers, okay? But that's just data centers. They don't have visitors, okay? 2 people can man, but you don't need employees, really. So this is the state of where we are right now, all right? So the people that are chopping trees for their notes, the people that are using, of course, nickel, silver, manganese, copper to create those coins, okay? Digging those minerals from the underground and destroying those underground by definition, including, obviously, then they need to also ship those nickel and silver and minerals to wherever they need to now process them. Everywhere in the world, think about it, because a lot of countries, most countries have a currency, although you have system currencies, not nation-based currency, I would say, but you would have to call it union-based currency, okay? So this is where we are right now as far as energy consumption is concerned. The energy consumption of Bitcoin is definitely lower, way lower than anything we can have with paper currency or coin currency, okay? And their cost to the environment and to the electric consumption. So careful, of course, about the information, because in the follow-up tweet, AVB clarified that he was using information about the Bitcoin network's electricity consumption in 2014, of course. That was 7 years ago. In 2014, the Bitcoin network was using $0.79 billion worth of resources per year. In 2018, that number has risen significantly, and in 2021 also. The Bitcoin network today consumes 3.5 billion per year. Based on the $3.5 billion per year figure, Bitcoin costs 500 times less than the global banking industry and 30 times less than gold mining. So why give up on Bitcoin on the ground of energy consumption when that information has been pushed back as far as 2018, has been debunked as far as 2018? The right attitude will be to drop paper money and the rest of it. If you were, of course, following that philosophy. We're not calling for anything to happen. We're just saying that the data doesn't back the argument. All right? That's what we're trying to say, of course. And the figures above refer to the total annual economic cost of each industry, including electricity usage and other costs. AVB also broke the issue further down into energy used and tons of carbon dioxide produced. Gold mining, of course, produces 475 million of energy used per year and 54 million tons of CO2 produced. Gold recycling, of course, is 25 million of energy used per year and 4 million tons of CO2 produced. Paper currency and minting, it's 39.6 million of energy used per year and 6.7 million of tons of CO2 produced. The global banking system is 240 million of energy used per year for 390 million tons of CO2 produced. And of course, Bitcoin mining is the last, but not the least, let's face it, right? Which is 3.6 million of energy used per year, right? And 0.6 million tons of CO2 produced. Now, we have another article from Bitcoin.com, right? Which is banking system uses significantly more energy than Bitcoin. Research shows, all right? I know some of you will question the sources I'm using, and you're right, you should. I would say that yes, I tend to go for a crypto pure player for my sources. To justify it, I'll simply say that most of what we call mainstream media has not been right on a lot of technological issues and points. So which is why I rely a little bit more on pure players for my information. I hope you allow me to do that. I think the reason why you come to this podcast is also because you want to hear a little bit more of that other side of, if you want, the information cycle. And I'm more than happy and ready to provide you with that information. And I do always thoroughly check my sources before actually ranting about it or talking about it on this podcast. Okay, so Bitcoin.com, a news report shows that the banking system consumes more than twice the amount of energy that Bitcoin does. The authors analyzed Bitcoin's energy usage and compared it to the banking and gold industry. Banking system consume much more energy than Bitcoin. That's, if you want, the Galaxy Digital report. All right, and it's a quantitative approach to a very subjective question, of course, right? So let's look at really in terms of what is the actual energy consumption of each industry, right? That's really what the blog post tries to break down, comparing the banking system, the gold system, and the Bitcoin global network. So we have a graph there, and what do we have? We have estimated annual energy consumption in terawatt hours per year. Right, so it's kind of an industry standard, right? And the source is Galaxy Digital, right? You have the banking system, which has, of course, bank data centers, right? You have comparing to our own data centers, dedicated data centers that we call mining centers, if you want, to some extent. You do have to consider, of course, bank branches, physical branches, all over a country sometimes, in many countries, if we're talking about global institutions, not to mention, for example, the Visa or the MasterCard network as well. And then, of course, you have the ATMs that are being distributed all over the place, okay? So all of those use energy, of course. They use energy up to 263.72 terawatt hours per year, okay? That's the banking system. Gold comes a little bit shorter, underneath 250, right? Terawatt hour per year, 240.61. If I really want to go into the detail of the information. And of course, now the Bitcoin network, right, is estimated around 113.89 terawatt hour per year in total, okay? I know your next question already. You want to know when was that post, when was that information posted? It was posted by Kevin Helms 3 days ago, and it has had already 25,000 people have watched that post on bitcoin.com, right? So that's for the information. And of course, what we can add in that respect to that figure, to that 113.89 terawatt hour per year, we can say that the estimates comprise minor demand, minor electricity consumption, of course. Okay, we talked about the timestamping server, if you remember, at the beginning of our analysis of the white paper. Okay, and minor electricity consumption, I've already said it. Now, pool electricity consumption, all right, because we do set up a lot of pools within the crypto space, and node electricity consumption, of course, all right? In conclusion, the report highlights Bitcoin's feature that can offer financial freedom to people worldwide. Don't forget, Bitcoin does provide a public service in places where the legacy global banking system has not been able to deliver banking solutions or digital or crypto banking solutions. Okay? And we have to stay there. We have to stay in banking. It is not a currency. Remember, we cannot buy a cup of coffee with it. All right? We have to go back to its Occam's razor definition, or even if we want to go into it, the Elon Musk first principle definition of a currency, which is an item that enables you to buy a cup of coffee around the corner. That's what a currency is for Mr. and Mrs. everybody on the street, okay? This is what we, the normal people, the non-Wall Street educated people, or the non-financial education people think of a currency. It is something that allows us to buy a cup of coffee around the corner, or pay for my transports, or fill my fridge. If it doesn't, then it's not a currency. It's something else. It's a digital asset, maybe, but it's a digital asset as much as Gangnam Style is a digital asset, because 3 billion of us actually ended up watching it and sharing it and made meme and homage video. It has more to do, of course, with creating this giant internet metaverse in which we would use some sort of virtual currency that would exist inside that metaverse, but maybe not really in what we call the physical or the real world. I think it's more something like that. So censors should back off. They should simply back off and let the crypto kids play. Back off and let the crypto kids play. I think the censors have won the day. We know there is more and more censorship coming towards the crypto ecosystem, the crypto space. We're not welcoming it, but we know it's coming. It's you're gonna call it maybe the crypto dark age or something, or crypto prohibition. I think we are entering that crypto prohibition age, which harkened back to previous prohibition in some part of the world in around those roaring 20s, 100 years ago, of course. But we're living historical time, and we have to rise to the occasion, rise to the challenge that is in front of us. So the crypto prohibition is there, and because of that, we do have to abandon also all ideas of a cryptocurrency. Really look at it as a crypto asset that will operate within digital or crypto metaverse, and stick to that for the moment, and abandon all sort of confrontational approach to it. That will also enable the censors to back off from what we're trying to do and not to stifle technology, because that's ultimately, if you want, the challenge there. The boomers' legacy is the internet, but to some extent, those that people call the boomer also want to censor their greatest invention to some extent, which is a kind of a funny moment in history, I guess. But we will go through it. We will get through it. We will definitely also find greener ways of mining Bitcoin. It's not the end of the effort that has to be done in that field too, by the way. All right, that's the whole point of innovation. We have to go greener and greener, and we have to bring that energy cost down. That should be a focus of the industry. Bring that energy cost down. Focus also on buying hearts and minds sometimes, or reaching out to hearts and minds. And I'm going to bounce with this on the same topic still. That's less of a Satoshi Chronicle and more of a crypto chronicle, because that's crypto billionaire Vitalik Buterin of Ethereum fame, which decided to donate 1 billion worth of Shiba Inu and Ethereum currency to India COVID-19 relief funds. That's an article that was published on India Today in the technology section, of course, by Ankita Chakravarti in New Delhi, a fantastic town of New Delhi. Shout out to all our brothers in India, of course, going through some dark times. Vitalik has donated 1 billion worth of coins to India. The donation has been made by Vitalik, which is a meme digital currency, which name is Shiba Inu, right? He has also donated around 500 Ethereum and over 50 trillion Shiba, right? As per reports, Buterin, has donated around 500 Ethereum and over 50 trillion Shiba Inu, a meme coin that is worth 1.14 billion to the India COVID crypto relief fund, which has been set up by Indian tech entrepreneur Sandeep Nelwal. Now, of course, the story goes deeper, because how to use 50 trillion Shiba Inu in COVID-hit crypto-wary India, right? This is an article by Subhashri Ghosh, Bloomberg News. It's the Economic Times Tech English edition. Much hustle, right? Dogecoin is allegedly a hustle, according to some sources on SNL. So, Sandeep Nelwal, a cryptocurrency entrepreneur from New Delhi who created the funds. So he set up a fund if you want to help India, all right? India is going through some dark times as far as the COVID situation is concerned. Well, I need to remove the C words. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do that. All right, so he announced last month that his India Crypto Relief Fund has already identified an entity to convert the donations, right, for his crowdfunding efforts, right, into rupees, and an aid receiver compliant with India's Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. He now vows to act responsibly to protect, of course, the retail community. The fund literally intends to liquidate only gradually to protect prices. So now you have India's COVID relief fund, right, tweeting, okay, the following information. We're swapping the Doge with USDC, all right, which is a stable coin. The fund will be transferred to this account for an intermediate process. So there is a set of, numbers and letters, right, which is basically, well, it looks like a signature for a public key, I guess, all right, and once swapped, USDC will be returned to the main donation wallet, right, so you have actually the address and the wallet that you can, pinpoint, you can target. Prices of Shiba Inu meme coins have recovered about 25% in the past 24 hours. according to CoinGecko.com. So what happened, of course, the price of the currency plummeted, tumbled, went down, right, because of the massive crypto donation, which, of course, comes at a time when India's regulators have been expressing concern about the asset class, such as questions about a source of funds, says the blog Economic Times, India Times. That has spurred of obviously discussions about whether charities that receive such donations must dispose of the coins before any looming ban. That's a very good thing. This is where the crypto community needs to be known for now, right? It's about really going after hearts and mind, really showing the power of the crypto community, how we can gather now in and around the world for those type of actions. I'm expecting the crypto billionaires, the crypto millionaires, the winners of the first kind of, if you want, the first market, right, which is the first crypto market, which is 2009 till 2017, we have to say, right? That was the first kind of market. That was marketing. We have to say that those winners, right, have to now do something, right, to create advocacy and spread the message of crypto, but in a positive way, like we are having the same situation now happening in India, right? Getting involved in charitable actions will go a long way towards getting us much more accepted in mainstream media, in mainstream hearts, and in mainstream minds, okay? This is, of course, crypto social media warfare 101 there, all right? And we do expect all of us to start getting involved in those fields. I do my bit. I'm spreading the words. I'm doing the educational aspect of it. I'm looking at the technology aspect of it. From time to time, I will mention some economical aspects of it, of course. But I will mostly focus on technology and, stay away from the politics, stay away from really the economics of it, but really focus on the technology. From time to time, we will, of course, dabble a little bit into the real world and see, okay, how does that technology impact real people in the real world? We also want to know that. All right, so thank you very much again for following us. It was a pleasure, as always, to talk to all of you. It's a privilege, I think, for me to be able to talk to you. I hope it's a privilege on the other side too, but it's definitely fun. That's the first aspect that I have to mention about this whole endeavor. Right, it's really the fun aspect of it that has to dominate, okay? The fun and playful, all right? It's all fun and game. It's all revolutionary for sure. It's the new technology for sure. It's the Web 3.0 for sure. And the internet is still undefeated for sure. So, shall see you again soon. Here we go. Next time on Satoshi's Corner, we will delve down the rabbit hole and get lit by point 4 of the Satoshi white paper, that is proof of work and energy. Bye. The question, of course, is where can you find us online? And that's very easy, okay? So we are ADMP is on Spreaker, of course, so that's where you can find us. That's where you can find the podcast, of course. But we also obviously have a Twitter handle, which is at Team ADMP. All right, so you can find us there. All right, that's one place where you can definitely find us. We also have a Facebook group, all right, ADMP. All right, so you can also find us there. All right, so we also have a Substack, a newsletter, all right, where you can find us there. So Substack /ADMP, ADMP, right? Or you can write it in this way: https admpincubator.substack.com, right? Or effectively, you can find us on Discord, and you have to look for a server called Meta Barons with an S. Meta Barons. Meta or Meta? Meta Barons. METABARONS. Alright, so find us in all those good places or wherever you go online for your information. Alright, we are probably likely to be in and around that space as we try to really, literally be everywhere. Alright, have a nice day, have a nice week, have a nice month, have a nice life. Bye-bye. It was Hermann Djoumessi speaking, social media consultant, crypto analyst, blockchain specialist. Bye-bye. I'm out.